Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for meeting with me today. I'm not sure where everybody is, but um, looks like you're a lone star again. But that's okay. So, the purpose of today is to kind of walk you through expectations for the interview process that's going to happen tomorrow. The Wellstar Hospital, actually, not the hospital itself, but the ambulatory services have decided to come and do on-site interviews for students. I believe they have three open positions that they're looking to fulfill. So, and they want to interview as many people as possible to get a nice pool to see, who is a good fit for them. Welcome, Issa. So
Hi.
today, I kind of want to talk to you all about what to expect for the interview process. I myself worked at Wellstar for the first 8 years of my career, and I was also a hiring manager for surgical service for the surgical bariatric unit inside of Cobb Hospital. So I have a little bit of understanding of things that they're going to be asking you, what they're going to be looking for, and I want to share those with you so you can have a heads up and be prepared. Also, NHA has a really nice resource on their website, and I put the link to that in the chat in case you want to click in and read up on it later. This is a resource also explaining to you kind of what to expect in the job interview. So I'm going to outline some of these guidelines for you and then expound upon them in my own personal experiences. All right. So one of the first things first of all, the interview here is going to be more than one person. So you are going to walk into a room where there is likely going to be at least two or more individuals interviewing you. Do not let this be scary. It is very common, especially when if you go through a two-part interview process. Typically, what would have happened is you all would have applied for Wellstar. Wellstar would have called you. They would have done one interview with you. And then if they liked you, they would have called you back potentially for a second interview and a panel of people. So in this scenario, neither of you probably have even applied, which I would highly suggest you go ahead and apply. And I'll put a link to how and where to apply in the chat today. So that'll just take one step out of it, A. And B, it will show how serious you are because you've already done that extra step. But technically, you are getting this job interview because you are a student of Hero Institute, so you have not or may not have submitted an application just as of yet. But they're coming on site and they are going to have a panel right then and there so that you may not need to undergo the second interviewing process. Not saying you won't, but more than likely you won't. Typically, the two people who are in an interview, one will be an HR representative from Human Resources. The second one will be the actual hiring manager for that particular services. Right now, it's called surgical services, not surgical services, I'm sorry, ambulatory services is the kind of, what do you want to call it? The role that you all will be applying for as opposed to like Cobb, Wellstar Hospital or Kennestone Hospital and et cetera. Also, the position is not labeled phlebotomy like you would expect. It is labeled, oh, what do they call it? Let me go to their website real quick. I think it was called lab services technician or something like that. And the reason why they call it that is because typically these people who work in lab services have multiple roles. So it may be that you're not just drawing blood. You may actually be also doing intake on patients, like putting their information into the system and registering them, kind of like you did here at the school. It may be that you are taking the specimens and actually processing them at the lab and so on. So there's different roles that you may be taking on. If some of those roles you are not familiar with or you've never done, it is okay. Wellstar will put you through training regardless. This hiring manager actually told me that she likes people who do not have experience. So do not be fearful that you don't have experience and no one's going to want you because of that. She knows you have strictly your education and she's okay with that and likes that. All right, lab support services. Let me see. I want to make sure I'm telling you the right name of this position. Anyway, when we get done, I'll make sure I put it in the chat for you to click and learn more about the position. It is really important for you to like read the position so that you can say the things that the position says. Oftentimes when we look at positions, it'll tell you like what they're looking for. And if you say those key words in the job interview, then they're going to feel like you are speaking to them directly, and that's what we want. So right here, I have the in front of you. One of the main questions they're going to ask you is for you to just tell them about yourself. This is usually like an icebreaker question. So the goal here is to get you to loosen up, to hear what you like to do, who you are as a person, and whether or not your personality fits their team. A lot of times it's not just about qualifications, it also is about personality. So, does your personality fit the team? I will say this, when you are doing the tell me about yourself portion, I would be careful about giving too many details. So, for instance, telling them that you have small children is not smart. Telling them that maybe necessarily that you're married or you're engaged may not be smart. Um, I have worked with managers, unfortunately, who would hear those keywords in an interview and immediately think, I'm not hiring her because she's going to be calling in because she got kids, or I'm not hiring her because after she gets married, she probably get pregnant, going to go on leave. Like, and those honestly are illegal practices. You cannot do that. But I'm here to tell you, I have seen that happen when I've been interviewing with people. As soon as the person walks out the room, I really like her, but since she get married, she probably about to get pregnant, da 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 da, and I'll have to find her a replacement for a few months. Don't tell those types of things. When we're talking about tell me about yourself, you want to talk about things like things you like to do. Like, maybe you like to ski, or maybe you like to roller skate, or maybe you have volunteered in the past, or maybe you just graduated high school and now you're in school and you still have the learning mind, or whatever you want to say about yourself in that capacity would be important for them to hear. It says right here, this is a great opportunity to offer an overview about your education and professional experiences. You can also talk about any activities you have outside of work. Volunteering, they really, really like if you've ever done any type of volunteering. But anything that just makes you look like a well-rounded person, I would talk about. So I love this example here. Um, in this example, the person said, Hey, so tell me about yourself, which is a very open-ended question and leaves you to say a lot of things. This person in this example said, I've always loved helping people. I think that that's what led me to actually become a phlebotomist. I recently completed my training at Hero Institute, where I also obtained my certification. Let me see. I don't know if I'll have time to keep volunteering at whatever place, blah, 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 once I get into this position, but I'm very excited about a career in helping people, right? So it can be just as short as that. It doesn't have to be anything intense. I'm telling you these things now so that you can be thinking of a story. Like, be thinking of a story. Think of your life. Think of what I'm going to say and how I'm going to say it. Because when you're on the spot and they ask you this question and you're not prepared, you may say something inappropriate or wrong, which is what I'm trying to prevent. So be thinking about how you would answer the possible question, tell me about yourself outside of work, or tell me about yourself, why you got into this profession, something like that. Let me also back up and say this. If they ask you a specific question and you do not answer that specific question, that people will not hire you off of that, because it sounds to them like you don't know how to follow directions. So I'll give you an example. Very often I would ask people in job interviews, can you tell me about a specific time where you had a customer that was not happy and how you dealt with it? Now, you may not have worked before, so you can't, that might be hard for you to answer. They can tell by your resume if you worked before. So they're going to cater their questions to your resume. They might say, tell me about a time if you have never worked, but you just fresh out of high school or college, they might say, tell me a time where you were at school and you had a problem with somebody and how you dealt with it. Okay. But notice the key word was tell me a specific time, or tell me a time where you had a problem and how you dealt with it. I see people always answer the question like this. Anytime I have a problem with someone, I just really come to them and I talk to them about it. I think it's really important to communicate. And once we kind of talk it through and I understand them better and they understand me better, usually it's easier to work together. But if not, then I'll just get the supervisor involved. Did I answer the question? No, because I didn't tell you about a specific time. So I'm sorry, can you guys give me just one moment? I am so sorry, but I have to answer this call. One moment. Okay, thank you for your patience. So, back to what I was saying about what was I saying? Tell me where I left off at, ladies. Oh, yeah, I remember. Did I answer the question? No, I didn't. I just talked about what I would do. I didn't give an actual example. So, an actual example of, because the question was, can you tell me a time when you had a hard time or with a customer and how you dealt with it, or with a person and how you dealt with it? So, a more appropriate answer would be something like, well, I was working one time with this girl and she was a nurse and I was a CNA, so I had to report to her. And every time I would come in contact with her, I just really felt like she was talking down to me or she was belittling me. And she would kind of raise her voice with me. And so it kind of got to the point where I felt like I didn't want to tolerate this anymore. So I just pulled her to the side and I said, hey, I just want to let you know that I don't mind working with you. We're a team. We're here to serve the patient. But moving forward, it would be very helpful for me if you just come to me, as respectable as another person, because how I'm feeling is like you're kind of attacking me every time we talk. And from that day on, like she respected me, she spoke with me, everything worked good, and I didn't have any more problems. I didn't have to elevate it. Now, that is giving an exact example. It's also showing that I know how to problem solve. If your answer is, oh yeah, I had a nurse that was over me and she was always yelling at me and she was rude to me, so I told my supervisor, that's not the answer. Okay, we do not get supervisors involved until we try to fix the issue. So that's another tactic I want you to understand. If you sound like a person that's always going to tell and always getting management involved, no one wants to deal with you because you're not proving that you know how to problem solve things on your own. Managers have other things they're trying to do. Yes, they want to be there for you, but you got to prove you've already tried to problem solve first. So, again, I want you to be thinking about a time, and this question did come up in February when Wellstar came. I did talk with the ladies who took the interviews and they said this question did come up. So be thinking about a time in your life where you had an issue with someone and how you dealt with it. And please make sure the way you dealt with it was appropriate. Okay. We're not gonna talk about the time we punched somebody because they got on our nerves. We're not gonna talk about the time we cussed somebody out or whatever. We're gonna talk about a time where we actually dealt with it appropriately. Any questions about that? Okay. Another question may be, why are you interested in working for Wellstar? And you may not have that answer right now. But I tell you what, if you go to Wellstar mission and vision, and you go read and you learn about Wellstar's mission and vision, everyone who works for Wellstar has to know the mission or vision. It's drilled in us. So if you speak to this mission and vision and values, then it sounds like you are a good fit for the company. Let me give you guys a good example before we read this. Who all knows that Chick-fil-A is a Christian organization? Okay, Chick-fil-A is a Christian organization. They are not open on Sundays, blah, blah, blah. I would not send it in a Chick-fil-A interview and tell them that I'm atheist, that I am transgender. Matter of fact, I probably shouldn't even be trying to interview for Chick-fil-A if I'm atheist and transgender because we do not share the same values and mission. I would want to and should try to work for an organization that respects those things because those are valuable to me. And I need that to be valuable for the company I work for also. So when you see Wellstar's mission and values, as I'm getting ready to show you, you do have to ask yourself, are these actual visions and missions and values that align with me? And if they do, I need to speak to them during the interview process. So it says right here about Wellstar. Actually, let's go straight to mission. Our mission is to enhance the health and well-being of every person. Our vision is to deliver world-class healthcare to every person, and our values is to be compassionate and to pursue excellence and honor every voice we hear. So this means that you can speak to those things of you as a person, your values, how you see things. You believe every person needs care. Maybe you've seen a situation where a person did not receive the care that they were supposed to in your family. And maybe you want to talk about that. When my aunt had cancer, she felt like when she went to, don't name no names, okay? Because we don't want to down other organizations. They may be fearful that you may try to down them later, but I'm not going to name any facility, but when my mom went so and so and she had cancer, she just didn't feel heard. And that's one of the reasons that made me wanting to get into healthcare. I wanted to hear people. And I also see that Wellstar has the same value of making sure that every voice is honored. And that's something that I want to be a part of. That's an easy way to answer that question. Okay. And again, the question was, why are you even interested in working here? If they ask you something like that, be thinking about something you can put together for that. Another very common question is, what is your biggest weakness? And none of us like to admit that we have a weakness. But guess what? You do. I do. I've been in healthcare for over 20 years. I still have a weakness. We all do. If we cannot identify our weaknesses, then we cannot grow. So when we look at this, if they ask you what is one of your biggest weaknesses, one of the tips here it says, if there's anywhere to hold back, it's here. You should be honest, but there's no need to be hard on yourself. Okay. So we're not gonna, oh, I don't never do this and I don't never do that. We're not going there, but we are going to at least identify something about us that may be mediocre that we want to make better, if that makes sense. So right here, an example says, sometimes I struggle with dealing with confrontation. I think it's important to keep peace so that we as healthcare professionals can perform our job to the best of our abilities and make sure our patients feel safe. But yet I realize in some cases, patients or even colleagues need to hear something that may be uncomfortable. So I am personally working better on how to tackle situations head on when I'm feeling uncomfortable. Okay. For me, I usually say something about me working. Like I am a workaholic. If y'all, y'all probably didn't get a chance to know me well enough, but I am a true workaholic. I clearly work well over 40 hours a week. For me, I usually talk about learning how to deal with work-life balance. Like I love working and I love being there for people. And sometimes I let it take a toll on me in terms of not giving back to myself sometimes, so I have to remember and remind myself that, once a month on every Saturday, I'm gonna take care of myself. I'm gonna go do these things for myself. So sometimes I struggle with, if someone calls me and says, I need you to pick up this shift for me, like even though I know I said Sunday was the day as I take care of myself, I'm probably gonna take the shift. So again, that doesn't make me look bad. Nobody's gonna be mad at me for picking up an extra shift, but that is just who I am. Nobody's going to be mad at you for saying that you deal with confrontation, struggle rather with confrontation, because you've already identified that you struggle and that you're making steps to do better. But that doesn't make you feel bad that you're not trying to argue with somebody at work. That don't look bad. So be thinking about what weakness you have that you probably could make better. And actually, I'm going to stop right here and ask you guys to unmute and name something that you think about. I know it's hard.
Okay, well, mine is just basically when it comes to communication with confrontation per se, I will have a tendency to kind of hold things in to avoid the confrontation. And then, over time it'll build up. And now there was one thing, but now there's five things. And then eventually you have to come out and now list all of these things that you've
Mm-hmm.
had issues with when you could have just, started with the first thing. So I'm aware of that now. So I make sure to take the time to understand and not let it build up. That's a
Mm-hmm.
weakness of mine.
Very good, very good. And I love that you added in like now I've identified that and now here are the steps that I'm laying out that I've been laying out to work on that. I love that. What about you, Issa?
I would say that could be an issue for me too, dealing with confrontation. But
Okay, how would you
I
relate
tr-
that?
I try to tackle things that I'm uncomfortable with, like stuff that would be out of my comfort zone and stuff that I'm not usually comfortable with. You know.
Hmm. Yeah, and another thing that would be good to mention with that is like, I've learned to not deal with confrontation right there in the moment. I've learned that sometimes letting things settle and then coming back to it and saying, "Hey, I feel this way about that situation," also works. And it helps to prevent confrontation. So that's also another thing to mention. But very good, ladies. Now, this one on why did you leave your last position? Like if you had a prior job, why did you leave? The key thing to learn here is don't badmouth them. Don't say, "Well, I didn't like it because they was doing this to me," or "I had to leave because they was doing that to me." I would say something more like, It was a great experience while I was there. Everything I learned was perfect for me, but now I'm in a place where I just want to expand my knowledge and learn more skills. And so that's why I'm kind of stepping out to try something different or try a new organization or whatever. Always speak highly of the prior organization, even if they do secretly get on your nerves. Another question they may ask you or is like your goals, in 5 years, where do you see yourself? Don't say I don't know. Be thinking about that. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And how can you grow with the organization? I am here to tell you right now that Wellstar is definitely an organization that likes people to grow. They give money for furthering education. They even have a whole developmental center where they send employees who they want um, to flourish and to grow. So if you're talking about any of your endeavors that you have for the future, like, I don't know, maybe you want to become a nurse, a sonographer, a physical therapist, whatever it is, then say those things and let them know I'm looking for an organization that is willing to support that, to support my goals. If you're not looking forward to further your education, but you are looking for an organization that you can still grow in, WellStar's still one. If you're a phlebotomist now, you can become a lead phlebotomist later. You can become a supervisor over the phlebotomist and so on. So just let them know, like, I see myself, however you see yourself in 5 years or in the future, be thinking about what that looks like to you. Any questions so far? Okay, I want to look for this position real quick. I'm gonna pause this.